Well, much as everyone was hoping, Unity has decided that they are going to change course and drastically update this runtime fee policy. But I want to talk about why, for me, this is not going to convince me to go back to Unity. Let's get right into it. So we got this announcement, and just says, to our community, I'm Mark Whitten, and I lead Unity Create, which includes Unity Engine and editor teams. My initial thing is, I'm not sure how involved Mark Whitten was in this decision, because I feel like on one hand, if he was involved, that is a bad look because you have the president of the division involved in one of the dumbest decisions that they could have made. If he's not involved, then you have him essentially being the fall guy for the executive leadership at the top that, tried to push this past everybody. I think the first one is worse, but to me, this is still bad because as the president of the division, it's good for him to step up and take charge. But at the same time, the people above him that I think made this decision should be the ones, trying to apologize for this. He does go on to the next line and say, I want to start with this, I am sorry, which is pretty much the closest we've come to actually getting a real apology. The non-apology we had on Twitter, that doesn't count. But let's actually talk about what he goes on to say. So they've made a few changes to Unity Personal, which is you now need $200,000 for the cap. So once you've earned that, I don't really know, it doesn't say here in the post if it's in a year or a lifetime or what. Before that $200,000, it's yours, Unity's is still yours to use free. And you can now remove the Unity splash screen with the next version. I believe that'll be the 2023 LTS that'll come out. For Unity Enterprise and Pro, the next LTS version, which will be the 2023 LTS, using that will get you under the new runtime fee policy, which will have it so that any game that makes over $1 million will have one of two options, a 2.5% revenue share or an amount based on the number of active users in a month. And they say whichever is lower is the amount you're going to pay, which is fine. If they would have tried to do this from the start instead of the stupidness that they did do, I think most people maybe grumbled, but they could have understood it, because I completely understand that Unity has to change their business model. Another clarification that they've put on here now is that you're able to stay under the Unity license for the editor version you're using. But this is where I have the problem, because this was already the case, and they literally tried to change that. So how can I take any of this seriously when they literally just tried to push an update to TOS retroactively to every version of Unity, no matter how old? I don't even know how to get past that point. That happened. We can't undo that. I believe they have gone on and said that was a mistake. I personally can't buy that. That seems like a really weird mistake to have happen. They have returned the GitHub repo with the TOS. They have added they have created a new version of the GitHub repo with the TOS, added that back in. It is the same as it was before. So, there's that, I guess. But yeah, to me, the damage is done. I cannot see myself using Unity for a project at this point. I am going to have to see continued walking of the walk and not just this talk that we're getting here. Because without that, I just I cannot see myself using it. So yes, between this whole thing about there being confusion and the leaked talks from earlier in the week and everything where they were still using that language, and no, there's no confusion. We understand exactly what you're trying to do, and we're trying to say this is stupid and ask you all of these questions about it. It's not confusion. That's trying to point out how dumb the policy was. And that's what, again, to me, matters. The fee probably wasn't going to apply to me. I could be very successful in Unity without even getting to the point where the fee mattered. If it did get to that point, I could have upgraded. And again, I would be spending less than I would if I was using Unreal. But that was never the problem to me. It was always this retroactive stuff and always the approach and the stupidity that was taken with this. So for me, I do not see myself going back to Unity. I will be watching their activities and kind of seeing what they do. If they can walk the walk for a couple of years, who knows? Maybe I will even consider it again. But at this point, I am just going to lean into using Godot. I am going to check out Unreal, just like I said in my previous video. That is not going to change. The only way I can see myself using Unity right now would be if like a game jam team wants to do a project and they want to use Unity, and I really want to team up with them. I just simply don't know what Unity's going to do. And when you have that in a business partner, it's just tough for me to really justify continuing to consider that business relationship. And just to round out really quickly, I really don't have emotional attachment to this. So I don't really have any rage or anything like that for Unity or whatever. It's purely just a stance of I don't know how to trust them as a business partner because I don't know what they're going to try to do next. From a pure business standpoint, I can't see relying on Unity at this point, for me personally. Granted, I'm not in the middle of a project. I am prototyping my projects. So for me, it's a lot easier decision than somebody's already in it. But what about you? Will you be going back to Unity? Or will you be looking at Godot or Unreal? And if you are considering a move to Godot, consider checking out my video right here about high-level Godot tips.